Good morning, everyone. My name is Magdalena Campos. I am a certified National Peer Recovery Support Specialist. And today I have the pleasure of having Connie with us. Connie has been a very important person in my life of recovery. I remember hearing Connie speak at Stepping Stones when I was there in the Women's Extended Care Unit. And I remember hearing the message that I needed to hear to start my recovery journey and to continue my recovery journey. So she's someone that I look up to and that I am very happy to have in my life and get to work with her. I am so grateful for that. So none other than Connie. Connie, would you mind introducing yourself?
Oh, sure. My name is Connie Dewall. I'm the program manager over at the Will County Health Department for our Substance Use Initiatives program, which is our naloxone distribution and education. And I also help supervise our peer support program. So that's been going, and it's actually restarting over again. So more to come on that.
That
That's
is
what I do.
amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. And you just said it right now, peer recovery, right? I think that's what allows a lot of us to really have the confidence to continue on our recovery is when we get to have somebody next to us kind of guiding us through that instead of, like I always say, pointing the finger at us like you should be doing this, you should be doing that. It's more of like, okay, how can we do this together? Let's help each other out. So that's awesome. That's pretty amazing. Tell me what it was like for you when you said, this is not good. I need to do something. What was it like for you in that moment when you found yourself at your bottom?
But, well, you always go back to like where you came from, and was like, everyone talks about their childhood. It's like my childhood was great. I had loving parents. I got married at a young age, and I think what got me was I was that person that was always like friends with everyone, kind of like how I am today, kind of like just friends with everyone, but I didn't really have a lot of confidence in myself because I was after I had my last child, I gained a significant amount of weight to where I was like 355 pounds. So this was around 1998. So I'm old, y'all. And so I was always having people tell me, you have such a pretty face. Just if you could lose some weight. And it was that constant pressure of weight loss. So, when you come into recovery, you want those quick fixes. So they had just come out with gastric bypass surgery. Well, there was a quick fix. So I got approved for that. I was 100 pounds overweight. So I got approved for that, had this major surgery. And then within less than a year, I lost 200 pounds. And that's when my life changed, because I was still looking at the same person and everybody was looking as thin Connie, and I was still looking at myself as Connie. And I had gotten this really good job at a talent agency. I felt like I'd arrived, and my boss at that time, we were out of a resort where they sold liquor at the gift shop, and my boss would always go over and have us get like bottles of wine so we could have drinky poos, she called them, after work. And I wasn't a drinker in all of my 20s. I had the surgery when I was 32, and I was not a drinker until then. And it was like having that first glass of wine. It was like I saw things differently. I saw myself differently. I felt important. It was just a very strange feeling. So very quickly, though, because addiction is addiction, I don't know if I had a food addiction or whatever it was, but it hit me really, really hard. And to where I was starting to drink tequila at night because we started doing shots. And again, that warm feeling of this is a comfort instead of something that was really not good for me. And kind of going fast forward a few more years, my husband and I had some things going on in Arizona. That's where I was born and raised. His family was from Illinois. And so in 2003, we moved from Arizona to Illinois, thinking we would have a fresh start, thinking we were getting away from our problems. I left my entire family, came here. he had his family, which was, I was grateful that my three children at the time could have their grandparents and their great grandparents, but I still was not happy. So my drinking intensified to where I was drinking probably about 32 ounces of tequila a day
Mm.
till one day, I was functioning. I don't know how I was functioning, but I was functioning. And it was in 2006 that I had gone out, and, I don't want the garbage man to see me have all these bottles in the garbage. So I hid them. And my daughter, who never uses the easy bake oven that we had hidden, I would hide my bottles behind there, and she wanted to use it. And I came home and there were 13 bottles of tequila fifths on the counter, 13 of them. And all I saw was the last bottle that had just enough to get me to the morning so that I could go buy more, because I was drinking 24/7 and it was awful. I think that was not quite the turning point, but that's when I realized I had a problem. Fast forward, I went to treatment a couple times. Fast forward to 2007. Um, I was in and out of treatment, in and out of AA, and I had started another job, and my driver's license from Arizona had suspended. So I got pulled over, and my Arizona driver's license, which had my ideal weight and my ideal picture that I wanted, because I looked perfect on the driver's license, because I was all about my looks at that time. And it got suspended. So I had to get an Illinois driver's license and go to court. So October 9th of 2007, I went to court, showed that I had my driver's license. I stopped at to get something to eat for lunch, and then I stopped at the liquor store because I was going to celebrate that I had my license back. It was about 11 o'clock in the morning. I must have had something to drink. I did have something to drink. And my husband called me, and he knew something was wrong. And he said, "Don't go anywhere." And I said, "I'm going to go to Walgreens. I'm fine. I have a headache." So that was probably around 12:30. And the next thing I know, it's 6 o'clock at night, and I'm at St. Joe's. I blacked out behind the wheel. So
Wow.
that was my bottom. And so I don't know why I did not get a DUI, but with that weight loss surgery came a lot of health issues as well. So I have chronic anemia. So my BAC, they couldn't get an accurate on that because my hemoglobin was so low. So all I got was a failure to reduce speed and a improper lane usage ticket.
Mm.
And that was the beginning of that was my bottom. And that was the beginning of my recovery journey, to where I knew I needed to start looking at myself. And that's when I started diving into Alcoholics Anonymous. That's my form of recovery. And that's when my journey in recovery started.
Wow. That's definitely something to really look at, right? Because we all come into recovery thinking that we have a substance problem, right? A lot of us, that's how we get here, right? That's how we get to start looking at ourselves. Because I always say the common denominator in all the problems I had was me, not anybody
Mm-hmm.
else, not anything else. Financial problems, legal problems, family problems, relationship problems. Who was the common denominator? Me. And so I too had to look at myself. But yeah, you said something, and you said they couldn't get your BAC level because you have chronic anemia. I call those God moments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when something happens and you're just like, man, that should have happened. I should have died, or that car accident, I should have been dead. Or a lot of people, what happened? I call those like God moments where He comes and rescues us for purposes beyond what we can understand at that time. But He comes and kind of rescues us and says, okay, this is what we need to work on. Let's get this started. And so I think, do you think those are God moments?
Well, right. So anything that's a coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. I
Mm-hmm.
think so. I think he knew. I don't know. I mean, I do believe it was a God moment. I just feel I had a really good police officer as well, because I could hear him when I was in the hospital. I could hear my husband just crying, like, "How did this happen? Why is this at?" And all I heard him say was, "She just needs to get the right help."
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he probably had, I don't know, maybe knowing that I did wasn't out there doing that intentionally, or thank God I didn't, I didn't hurt anyone. I always joke that if you're on Gaylord between Division and Renwick, it's Carillon Lakes. I always joke that that's my light pole because I had to pay for the light pole.
Wow.
But so now everyone in Carillon Lakes probably knows I have that light pole. But yeah, so that was my, consequence, was a light pole, and of course my tickets and everything. But I was grateful, and I really looked back that, my goodness, I drove intoxicated a lot. And I didn't. You take that for granted. You always think, oh, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'm only going a few blocks or whatever. But yeah, so that was another thing that I just said, I was, that was a bottom, and again, grateful that something else didn't happen that day.
Yeah, yeah. God sends people too. Maybe he sent
Yes,
that cop, right? Like
he
your way,
did. I
like,
know he
hey,
does. He does. He does. Sometimes I question the people he puts in my life, but he does. He did put that police officer in my life that day. Yeah. So
I
that's
always say either we learn how we don't want to be from the person in front of us, or we learn something from them, right? But there's always something to learn. Like I used to complain about people, like, why can't they do it this way, or I can't believe they're doing it that way. And then my sponsor would be like, well, that's a great way for you to see that you don't want to be like that person, so don't do that. And I was like, oh
right.
yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Right, right.
What was it like for you? Because I also wrote here, relapse and linear recovery, right? Like recovery is not linear. It's
Mm-mm.
got many ups and downs, and I know that relapse was part of my recovery journey. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So it is a part of mine too. That was not only the first time. Well, so when I started going into Alcoholics Anonymous, I also, that's when my career changed. My career changed, and so I had gotten a job at a DUI clinic with someone who was in the program and owned a DUI clinic. Got me a job there, so I like another career switch of, when we all come into recovery, I know not a lot of us, but for the most part, a lot of people, I want to give back. I want to serve. I want to work in this field. I want to be a CADC because I had a really great CADC. And so that was I wanted to be in recovery. I wanted to work in recovery. I wanted to save, air quote,
Hmm.
save as many people as I could. So I started working at the CUI clinic. And then someone said, you should go over to Stepping Stones and start working over there, maybe sponsoring some girls over there. And so this was around 2010. And I started going over there and sponsoring. And at that time, this is when the heroin epidemic was beginning, was around 2010, into Stepping Stones. And I was an alcoholic. I, believe it or not, never had done an illicit drug in my entire life, not even smoking weed. And I was meeting these girls who had heroin addictions, and it was all new to me. I mean, these were 19, 20, 21-year-old girls. And there was a time when, if there were 15 beds at Stepping Stones, 13 of them I was sponsoring, because I just was going to sponsor everybody. I was going to save everybody. Like, it was crazy. And then that's also when I experienced my first overdose of someone dying from the disease. And, I was just all in from 2010, 2011, 2012, 13, 14, 15. And 2015 came, and I was working with all of these girls. I had one pass away already. So when that happened, I was going to hold on to these girls even tighter. Like, you're going to do what I'm going to say. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to be at this meeting. We're going to work on this stuff. Forgetting that I had a family also. Forgetting I had a family at home, because I was at every 8 o'clock meeting and at Stepping Stones, probably in between working. And 2015 came, and I had met a girl that was my age. And I had not met a lot of girls my age at that time. And I was sponsoring a woman who was my age. She had came from the same background. She was married. She had kids. The only difference was her husband left her. My husband did not. And she was still seeking. She was a larger woman, so I could relate to her with that, of that low self-esteem, and not feeling worth. And if any man gave any type of attention, you were going to grab onto it, and I did that too. And she texted me one day. She had started falling off. And she texted me one day and she said, "You know what, Connie, I met this man. We're moving to Vegas. And I'm not going to be in recovery. He's going to buy me whatever I want, crack, whatever I want. And I'm going to leave with him." And I told her in a text message to F off. And 4 days later, she died from an overdose. And of
Mm,
course, what did I do? It was my fault. And so that was in January of 2015. And I started just saying, "See, God, you don't work. No one's
mm,
listening to me. AA doesn't work. No one's listening to me. Me, I. So who ended up relapsing? Me in August of 2015. And what was funny about that is I stopped going to church, stopped going to AA, stopped calling my sponsor, all those stuff that you do in an 8-month period. And I ended up lapsing in my recovery. And then I ended up in a spontaneous moment just buying a pint of vodka. And my husband knew something was wrong again. And instead of calling me, he came home mid pour. And I didn't hear him come in, and I was pouring a drink. I'd already taken a drink. I hadn't even gone through the pint yet. So this was probably my third like shot of it. And he goes, "What are you doing?" And he scared the, crap out of me. Sorry. And all I thought was, he told me if I ever drank again, he was going to leave me. And I said,
mm,
"Oh my God, this is the end." And he says, I go, "I don't know." He goes, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I don't know." He goes, "I know. You stop going to church, you stop going to AA." And my husband was not a fan of AA. He wasn't a fan of the program, but he knew that that's what was keeping me together and keeping me sober. And he goes, "I watched it all happen." He goes, "Go upstairs, lay down, get some sleep. This is between us. The kids don't have to know, but tomorrow morning you're going to have to call your sponsor." And I'm like, "I'm not calling my sponsor." That was a Sunday, but I had to call her on a Sunday, and I was back in sober school that Monday. So that was August 9th of 2015. And what that taught me is I don't have to be all in. I need to put myself first. I know God, like you said before, God will put the right people that you're supposed to work with, supposed to
mm.
sponsor. And the one biggest thing I did was I stopped listening to God because he wasn't answering me. Well, he was answering me because my gut was telling me what's right and what's wrong, but I wasn't listening. And so ever since then, so I'm going on my 11th year from that time, that I really, really started just to be a better listener to God, not be overly involved, not be in everything, not be in everyone's business. I try not to do that. Um, and he saved me that day. My husband did too, but I think he really believed in my recovery and what I was doing, and he knew I could do it. And I was grateful because I thought that was the end again.
Yeah, you said something that really sparked my interest. Grip, right? When I started, and I've only been at this recovery thing for a couple of years, not long, so I'm fresh in recovery, early in recovery. But I remember the first year I started sponsoring, right? I was like, why aren't these girls listening to me? Why aren't they doing what I'm asking them to do? Don't they know that they need to do this for them to be in recovery? And so I was aggravated with myself, right, for them not listening to me. And then, I'm grateful I have a group of women that I can call. And my grand sponsor, she said, honey, if we all listened to the people that were telling us to do what we needed to do for life, we probably wouldn't be alcoholics. And that just like, oh yeah, like I'm that way too. Like I didn't listen to people that were telling me what I should have done for my life, and I ended where I was at. So I've learned to let go of that grip, because I heard something the other day that was like, the more I want to hold, the more I want to hold on to something, the more
Mhm.
I'm not letting God do his work, right? Because I'm a fix, manage, and control person. Like if I have it, I'm gonna fix it. Everything's gonna turn out fine, but it doesn't. But and then I don't let God do what He needs to
Yeah.
do, right? I'm learning to kind of just like, okay, this is what I'm doing. If you don't want to do it, That's on you. It's not my responsibility to keep you sober. It's only my responsibility to show you how I got sober. And that's
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I too had a sponsee who passed away. Um, and funny enough, like my drug of choice is opiates, but hers was just straight alcohol, and she passed away from alcohol intoxication, which like you say, you're I think our minds automatically go to the what could have I done different? Should I have done something different? Is it my fault? Did I do something wrong? But again, this is why we need to be connected with other people to gear us in the right path, right? In the right thought process. Like, nope, it wasn't your fault. You did what you needed to do. That's it.
Mhm.
And so you get comfort from that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
yeah.
learned, oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I learned what to say in a text message. Don't swear at someone in a text message because you never know if that's going to be their last one. But another thing was I went from step 1 to step 12 and forgot the 10 in between. And so that changed also was, once I admitted it, I was right into service, but I hadn't even done anything in between. So
Mm,
if I hadn't done that, how am I giving that to someone else where it's just lip service? Like I'm just telling them what to do, but I haven't even done that or looked at my own self
yeah.
or done anything in between. And so that was another. And honestly, I don't know how I survived 8 years. Again, God, it's like, I'm going to teach you this lesson. And then finally, you know what? I'm going to halt it right there and we're going to start again. And that's, because he did say, he said, get up, let go, live for today, and let me lead the way. Like I heard
Mm,
that clearly in my head that night when I went to sleep. He goes, you have to let go basically of what happened to Kim. You have to get up. You have to live for just one day at a time, but you have to he says, let me lead the way.
yeah.
And so I heard that like clear as bell, or I was delusional, but I heard him say that, that's what you needed to do.
Yeah, he speaks. He definitely speaks. I was
Yeah.
just talking to another. I did another interview where we're just talking about that. Like he definitely speaks, and it's clear, right? Because it
Mm-hmm.
feels good. Like you know that's what you need to do. As soon as you hear it, you have like this sense of calm, the sense of
Mm-hmm.
peace. Like, okay, yeah, that's what I gotta do. It's not easy following
Mm-hmm.
instructions and being obedient, but he definitely says that, and it's just we have to put our action in to doing the
Mm-hmm.
footwork of what he's asking us to do. But yeah, yeah, that's amazing. One of the things that I wanted to touch on was you mentioned like the work we're doing, right? We're doing this amazing work where we get to help those who have lost their lives as a result of a drug overdose. And I'll touch up on it. We had a friend from the
Mm-hmm.
community, from the recovery community, just lose the battle to addiction this past Saturday. And one of the things that I'm grateful for is how the recovery community just rallies up around each other. Like they set their differences aside
Mm-hmm.
and then they just come together and rally up for each other, with each other, and to help those who are still struggling, right? And it's a constant reminder that this disease is out there and it's just waiting for us. And if we let go for just 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour, one day, it's right there ready to wrap his hands around us and just take us in. And sometimes we get caught up. I know I can. I get caught up in life, right? Life be life and life stuff, and just tend to forget about the basics. Back to the
Mm-hmm.
basics. I always say, what's the basics? Well, step 1, 2, and 3, right? Just getting on my knees, surrendering. I don't know what to do. Help me. And then looking at myself before I start pointing fingers at anybody else, looking at myself like, what did I do wrong? Did I do anything to offend anybody? What do I need to do? And then the service work that you mentioned, like going to the service work. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it's touching back a little bit about the disease waiting. So it's cunning, baffling, powerful, and patient. And this past weekend, so as I said, when I came back around and doing my service work, it was, where could I had this incredible opportunity a little over 6 years ago. To first, it was peer support. So starting during COVID, we started a program um, where where I was working with Dr. Burke, Dr. Kathleen Burke, and was offered an opportunity to start this peer support program where it's was helping people who couldn't find jobs because of their background or because they had that opioid addiction. It was a opioid funded grant that someone had to have been touched with opioid addiction or a family member. And we started interviewing people and helping people find jobs. And that was huge for me because some people, they had not even gone to school before. So you had this education. So it was watching these people grow and start their career. And if they wanted this path with peer support, they could. And I also, during that time, watched people fall because sometimes when you're in it too soon, like I did, you forget everything else that goes with recovery. You know, if you're not right and healthy, you're not able to give that to somebody else. So it was watching people who, you know, you give them that chance to help. And then, you know, once they go out on their own, it, you know, you have to let people go and then they fall or go backward. And so that's hard to watch. And then we started our got naloxone program in June of 2020. And, you know, the one that just passed away, he was one of our founding like rapid responders on the team. And again, it's, you know, I've had people on the team who have gone, you know, who have gone back to their, you know, old ways or gone back into addiction. And, you know, it's very difficult to watch that. And I have to, and I've been thinking about this, my own anger kind of got me over the weekend because it's frustrating for me. And I just want to be honest, it's frustrating to watch someone who knows what to do, who knows to reach out, who knows what programs work for them. I also see sometimes the pressure that's put on people in recovery because I've done it where being a part of this group or being a part of that group or, you know, the separation, even though we're all together, sometimes there's that separation of different, even though we're in the same recovery community, there's different groups of people to belong to. And I was finding myself like, I don't belong to any of I've helped. So I shouldn't say helped. I've watched the majority of the people that are in our recovery community today. I've watched them from the beginning and where they are now. And that's that sense of, you know, gratefulness that I've seen them from the beginning and where they've come from. And then I've also watched people from the beginning who are doing really well. And then all of a sudden, kind of saying, you know, well, I think I can go out and drink, or I think I can go do this. And then it's just an up and down battle that I pull away. It's like, you know what? I have to love you from afar because I don't want to get my heart broken because it's like shattered and it's very hard to, I think since September when I lost a dear friend in 2020, maybe being the last one that she saw before she passed away, that was like the breaking point for me of not getting close to people anymore. So I'm kind of working on that. So I'm just kind of engulfed in work and I have my program in the morning. I go to a 7 a.m. I sponsor 2 people that don't even live in the state, you know, or I do. Yes, Julie did move back. But Julie's here. But it's that connection of we've gone through the steps together. We communicate and we each live our own life. And I'm having a really hard time now today, just being transparent of getting close to people like I used to be.
That's actually something that I was talking to somebody else yesterday about because he is not in recovery. He is not an alcoholic or an addict, but I think that's a human trait, like that fear of rejection. He also told me, like, I don't like to get close to people because throughout my life, I felt that sense of rejection and I don't like to feel it. So it's hard. And I'm the same way too. I don't get close because I have that fear of rejection. If I don't get too close, then I'm not going to get hurt. Right. And so I have my distance. I too am working on that. I work on it every day, but I think there's some things that we'll just have to work for the rest of our lives on, right? Like that constant having to be uncomfortable with it, but keep on working with it. So
Mhm.
I'm actually going to have you talk about what we have coming up together. HLM Recovery and the Will County Health Department partnered up, and we have something coming up. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So this is the saving lives naloxone myths. So what we've been talking about is the myths of when we're going to be talking to people who have been reversed and was saved by naloxone, and then going forward in a couple months, we're going to have people who've actually administered it and their feelings. And basically, it's with naloxone and the myths of what happens when someone comes out of an overdose, what are their reactions, how is naloxone harmful. We just are going to go through the myths and the facts because there's so many different views on naloxone as far as is it harmful, how a person reacts when they come out of an overdose. That's different. And so we want to talk to people who have been had a reversal, have lived, their life has been saved, and kind of what they're doing too, and how naloxone does make a difference, and everyone should carry it.
So there is a QR code. Please contact us or contact Connie if you need that QR code to register. Let me put Connie's information on here so you guys can get a hold of her if you need to get in touch with Connie. She is at the Will County Health Department, and there is the Get Naloxone website as well. I will put both up if I can. Let me do, oh, I guess I can only do one. So there's Connie's info. I'll put her information, the Will County Health Department's information up in a little bit. But I do want to thank you for coming on. I do want to thank you for your transparency. Again, for your leadership and your guidance in the community. I think a lot of us have seen you as a leader and as a way of into recovery. So I am grateful for that. Thank you so much for coming on,
Thank
Connie.
you. I appreciate you.
All
Thanks
right.
so much.
Third guessing every choice.